kind of juggled some things around here today because of the holidays so that we could visit with the folks from the Small Business Development Center at Illinois Wesleyan University. You know them. They are Karen Bissoni, the director, and Caitlin Hill, the assistant director. And we're also going to meet a gentleman by the name of Scott Dixon today, who's a volunteer advisor who's worked for roughly 40 years in the banking industry and serves as an advisor to many Small Business Development Center clients. Karen, how are you?
Great. Thank you, Mark. And thanks again for having us today.
Well, you're welcome.
Our business tip of the month is know your numbers.
Know your numbers.
With the end of the year approaching, it always means tax season is near. And this time of year, many of our small business owners approach their accountant with their receipts from the year, or maybe some records of their expenses to complete their taxes. And while working with a CPA or an accountant is without a doubt very important, we also believe that it is important for small business owners to know what their numbers are as well as what they mean.
Is that one of the things that clients, when they first come to you, are maybe the most overwhelmed by, is keeping records?
Keeping records and just understanding the financials. I may have an income statement in front of me or a statement of cash flows, but I don't know exactly what it means. Some business owners do, yes, but others don't. And I would say that's one of the biggest challenges. So today, Mark, we have our volunteer advisor, Scott Dixon. He came to us a year ago and said, hey, I'd like to volunteer at the SBDC. And we welcomed him with open arms.
How did he hear about you? I guess I can ask him that, right?
Well, Scott came to one of our How to Start a Business in Illinois seminars. It was at Heartland Bank a year ago in November. And he came to that session and then visited with us thereafter about opportunities of volunteering.
All right, let's meet Scott Dixon, who's worked in the banking industry here locally, too, for about 40 years. Welcome to WJBC.
Thank you, Mark.
What did you do as you're an advisor for the SBDC, but when you were working, you retired about a year ago.
Yeah.
What did you do?
When in the banking industry, I have worked in various capacities in commercial lending, mortgage lending, consumer lending, investment management, branch management. So really all facets of the industry.
You know all the territory, and you work with the Small Business Development Center clients to help them understand how to set up cash flow projections, prepare to approach the bank for a loan, which I think maybe is probably one of the biggest things in terms of your position as a volunteer advisor with the SBDC, getting them prepared. You know, we've had other clients that we've met who've come in here during this segment, and one of the things that they were most nervous about was when they walk into that office to meet the bank officer to ask for a loan. So what do you tell them?
Yeah, it is probably an intimidating thing, but we tried to help our clients understand that the relationship with their banker it's a partnership, just like the partnership that they need to have with their CPA and their attorney. And that the more, frankly, that the bank knows, the more that loan officer can help explain the business's situation to their loan committees or their boards of directors, and again, really wants to see that business thrive and be as successful as that business owner does. And usually if a business does have a hiccup, does face some kind of problems, the quicker that client can come to the banker and talk about it, and they can look for different ways to maybe restructure the credit. If it's a temporary situation, take some of the cash flow pressures off of the business. That kind of partnership is really ideal for all the parties.
Let's explain for people what cash flow is all about. I mean, people hear that term all the time. In my little world, and I don't own a business, I'll just give the example that I use at home. I may have some credit card debt or something like that, and I may pay off that credit card debt with my home equity line and still send something to the credit card company, but you can't cut a check for $1,000 after you need a home repair and have money left over to buy groceries. So in order to keep my cash flow going, I'm borrowing from myself through my home equity line. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about when a business runs into some trouble where they can figure out a way with the bank, because you talk about it as a partnership, in order to allow them to have the money to keep running their business, but also take care of the debt?
When you look at reasons why businesses fail, so many times it's related to the lack of capital. They're what's called over-leveraged. Unfortunately, there are always more negative surprises than positive surprises. In running a business, inevitably there's just new expenses that come up that maybe, despite their best efforts, are just not foreseen. So that ends up sometimes translating in, I need to take on more debt. I need to take on maybe an additional investor. But the cash flow, the realization of either sales, receipts, providing services, whatever it is that business does, and then converting that either to directly to cash or to a receivable that eventually does get collected. There's a time lag often between when cash is collected and when cash needs to be expended for salaries and utilities and things like that. And this is what we're talking about when we're trying to talk about the timing of cash coming in versus the timing of cash going out. All
right. That can be a very, confusing thing for someone who hasn't done it before, right?
It can be.
Is that where you work with some of these folks who are small business clients of the SBDC?
Yes, we work both with businesses that are brand new startups as well as businesses that have been in existence. And those businesses that have been in existence may, again, be going through some kind of temporary situation, maybe where their sales have tailed off because of new competition in the market or, something like that. Or it may be that their accounts receivable are backing up because the people to which they sell are hitting financial, stress and not able to pay as quickly. For startup businesses, again, it's that undercapitalization. It's coming in with a great idea, and again, God bless the American entrepreneur that wants to get out there and take those risks. But a lot of times they don't have the cash backing that really is necessary to provide the level of liquidity that the business needs.
We're talking with Scott Dixon, who is a volunteer advisor for the Small Business Development Center at Illinois Wesleyan University. He's been in the banking industry for many, many years, retired about a year ago, and approached the SBDC about helping them on setting up a financial plan and whatever financial questions or dilemmas that they have to deal with. Caitlin, why don't I throw this to you? I know there's some things that you wanted to cover here. You've got your notes. I have no idea what they are, so go ahead. Fire away.
Yeah, so we wanted to just bring up a couple of events that we have coming up in January. It's hard to believe that 2019 is right around the corner, but we have a couple different events on taxes, actually, new tax law changes and how to prepare for small business taxes. One on January 15th from 6 to 7 p.m. with the Lexington Chamber of Commerce in Lexington, as well as on Thursday, January 31st from 11:30 to 1, and that will be at the McLean County Chamber of Commerce. And then we have our monthly How to Start a Business in Illinois seminar sponsored by First Security Bank on January 24th from 11 to 1. So join us for any of those events if you're interested. There's more details and registration open on our website.
Okay, so the all of these events are listed on the website.
They sure are at McLeanCoSBDC.org.
McLeanCoSBDC.org. So check that out. There are a lot of resources there. And maybe if you've thought about starting a small business or you've had an idea that, maybe you're finally mustering up the courage to take on the Small Business Development Center at Illinois Wesleyan University is a really good place to start because they might have the answers to a lot of your questions, and at the very least they can point you in a direction that will get you moving forward. All right, Karen, how about you?
Hey, it's almost Christmas. I wanted to say Merry Christmas to all of our listeners out there, and thank you for being loyal to this show and We're really thankful for where the SBDC is currently. Very, very, very happy to have Scott Dixon as a volunteer. It amazes me when I sit in meetings at the SBDC when Scott is present, and I think what resonates so greatly with our clients is his knowledge of also financial ratios and on the spot calculating those ratios and letting people know where they are and where the issues are. It's amazing.
All right, Scott, what does that mean, financial ratios? Break it down for a layman like myself.
Well, we love it when clients have good books. If they're bookkeepers themselves, or again are using the services of an accounting firm, and they'll provide us with their information, perhaps in Excel format. If we get it in advance, we can do various financial ratios. We were talking earlier about cash flow, and how one of the ratios that's often looked at is expenses that need to be covered within 1 year, and do they have the assets to cover those expenses within 1 year? There are resources available through the SBDC to take a look at peer data across the country. So, for example, maybe we're talking with a client that maybe runs a restaurant, and they're curious what their wage and salary ratio is as a percentage of their total revenues. And we can give them comparative benchmark data against peer groups. Maybe they're interested in whether their inventory is turning as rapidly as it should, or if there's stale inventory. Again, there's a lot of peer data that's available. So the SBDC brings a lot of resources that I think we've already found to be extremely enlightening to some of our clients.
So those financial ratios can be broken down into, for example, maybe if you're a small store, what percentage of the cost of the merchandise you're selling.
Correct.
As opposed to what you're bringing in, what part of, things like cleaning services or, any little expense or big expense that you may have, and how that breaks down. And maybe I'm envisioning in my head as sort of a pie chart, and what percentage each of your expenses take up as opposed to what your revenues are.
So many times it's labor, is one of the largest expenses that most businesses incur, and we handle a lot of business clients that are in the service industry, some that are in manufacturing, some that are in construction. And each of those industries has really their own unique ratios that really can be tremendous clues if the business is having problems, or maybe where they have opportunity that they can take advantage of.
Scott, it's nice to meet you.
Good meeting you.
Have a nice
Thank
Christmas.
You very much, Mark.
And Karen, Caitlin, you have a nice Christmas and New Year's.
Thank you. You as well.
And we'll see you guys again next month. The Small Business Development Center at Illinois Wesleyan University. You can find them online.